Hello, it's me, Julie Kim. Welcome to Bothered, my little podcast about being bothered. Every week I share short stories.
Living like this, I might lose it.
They're mostly real situations that have happened to me. You wouldn't believe some of them, or maybe you would. Maybe you can relate.
Living like this, I might lose it.
This is a story from about the year 2012. It was when I had first moved to Vancouver and I was living as a single lady and as primarily a graduate student who was mostly studying a lot of the time. And if any of you know graduate students or have been a graduate student, you know that it's not a glamorous time in your life. It's probably my most worst dressed era of my life. And even though that was the case, I was getting my nails done because I was, as I mentioned, a single lady. And it made me feel nice to have my nails done. So I went to this place regularly in downtown Vancouver, close to where I live, and I would get my nails done probably every 3 weeks because I would get like gel nails. So it wasn't a fancy place. It was a place kind of like in this indoor complex of small businesses. I had been going there regularly for about 2 years. It was on the more, kind of broken down end of the spectrum. The prices were reasonable. The lady who ran it was actually very sweet. During that time, I was, I think, a pretty good customer. I was regular. I gave a tip. It wasn't excessive. I didn't have a ton of money, but I was someone who went there regularly and didn't cause any trouble. But I would be in my own mind. And sometimes, because I am someone who's always on their phone or on their laptop at any kind of appointment, whether it's nails or hairs or not lashes, but when I'm at a lash appointment, I don't want to chit chat. I'm like listening to an audiobook or a podcast or something like that, which I think some people would appreciate because I'm also not taking up anybody's mental energy. I'm happy to sit there, not talk to you, understand that we generally like each other, and then at the end, say goodbye with a smile. So that was my relationship with this nail salon. And I had become used to their kind of like rough manner of dealing with me and most clients that I had seen, right? They would talk very loudly to each other in their language in front of me, sometimes right in my face. And I never really minded that much because, whatever. I was there to do my own thing and it was an affordable place to go. I just assumed that I was, one of their regular, respected customers. And then one day, everything changed. I went there one day getting my nails done, and a very fancy, older Caucasian couple came into the salon, and they sat in the pedicure chairs while there was a nail technician working on each of them. And the nail technicians sat up a little bit more, and they weren't yelling in anybody's face. They were very quiet, and they were so overly gracious and polite to this couple. I remember distinctly that the nail technician working on the man, she stopped and she smiled and said to the man, "Your wife is so beautiful." And she was fine. She wasn't like a beauty queen. She wasn't like a model, but that's not even the point. The point is that this nail technician put on a totally different persona for this older, rich-looking couple. And so did every other employee of that nail salon. There was no banging. There was no yelling as they walked around. There was no harshness. They changed the whole vibe of the whole place for this couple. And then the other kicker was when the other woman asked the lady, "Would you like some tea or some coffee or some water?" And I was sitting there as if in a hidden camera show. And I actually said out loud, I said, "You guys offer tea and coffee and water?" And one of the ladies said, "Yeah, Julie, you know that. You can ask for that anytime." And I was like, "Actually, no, I didn't know that. I've never seen you offer anybody tea or coffee or water, and you've never offered it to me." And then I just sat there quiet. That was the final straw for me. There were 2 straws that happened before that leading up that made me wonder how much I was actually appreciated as a client. I think, this is one that I remember. I had been almost finished my appointment and I went there to get like mani and pedi done. So I'm giving this business at least $120 on average every month. And I was getting ready to make my next appointment and I said, how about Monday afternoon? And one of the technicians that I wasn't even talking to shot a look at me and said in a very harsh way, she said, "No, Julie, we're busy on Mondays." And the woman I was talking to said something to her, probably reprimanding her for being so overtly rude to me, a regular customer. And she said, "You can come on Monday if you want." And of course that bothered me so much because the lady was suggesting that I should take a time where they're not busy because I was less important than their other customers, or maybe they took my schedule for granted and they're just like, "Oh, you clearly can come in anytime," which actually technically is true when you're a grad student and you're not so much tied to a schedule. So you have a lot of freedom about your schedule, which is partially the reason why I flunked out and quit. But anyways, but I saw that day that they had two different personalities and two levels of formality and respect, and I was getting the lesser one. My reaction was nothing directly to them. I didn't say anything. I paid. I tipped. Maybe a little less that day. I don't really remember, but I hope so. And these were people that like I saw regularly. Like I brought them chocolates for Christmas. The lady who ran the place would tell me as she worked on me that her daughter went to UBC, the university, and kind of asked me to help her find a job, which I did not. I didn't say anything to them that day. I just never went back. I would say I ghosted them. Maybe I was too casual. Maybe I should have dressed up when I went. Maybe I should have been an old white couple. I don't know. I think I just felt so offended. In my idealistic mind, I thought you're supposed to treat all your customers well. In my idealistic mind, I am as valuable as an older, rich-looking Caucasian couple that's come in for the first time to get pedicures done. I felt a little betrayed, too, that these Asian ladies, I think a little sad for them and also betrayed. I mean, business is business, and you're supposed to treat all your customers properly. Maybe they felt like an older, more well-to-do Caucasian couple needed a higher standard of service to feel like they were served properly. But I felt betrayed, sort of like, okay, one time when I was younger, I had a best friend. There was another girl that came into our like group or youth group or whatever at the time, and she really wanted to be friends with that girl. And she put on a totally different personality for this other girl who was like older and cooler or whatever. And she started acting in ways that were like not her real self and kind of ignoring me, but in a way that was like really yucky, because she would like kind of sell herself out and say things she didn't mean or pretend to be somebody she wasn't. And that was the end of that friendship too, because it's like, ugh, so gross. This is how it felt like. It's like watching someone who you know them, but they act completely different to impress someone else. I wonder if the nail technicians would have acted the same way to an Asian woman who was dressed super fancy with a designer handbag and heels and a business suit who came in. I've thought about this in many different circumstances before. Sometimes when you're an Asian person and you're dealing with another Asian person, things are more relaxed. There's not as many walls. There's this familiarity, which can be a very, very good thing. Here's one example of a good thing. When I was little and I would go into a store and they'd be like, "Oh, you're Korean?" And I'd be like, "Yeah." And they'd be like, "You can have it for free." That is the best possible familial kind of Asian on Asian interaction you can have. And then on the other side of the spectrum is when one of the Asian parties really lets go and gets super informal to the point that they are unprofessional and maybe rude. I'll give you two examples. One was a cleaner that I got when I think had started like working professionally. This was an Asian female cleaner referred to me by a friend, and she came into my place and then she goes, "Julie, how old are you?" Which is not something that a cleaner should ask a brand new client as they walk into their place. She had assumed she could talk to me like that because I'm Asian. Another time I had a mover. He was an Asian man. And Movers are paid a lot by the people who pay for their moving. He came in, he dropped all his stuff, like not even carefully, he dropped it. He went into the middle of the living room with his shoes on, and he goes, "Wow, how much was this place? It must be $500,000. And he looked at me as if I was his fucking friend or cousin or something like that. So in this case, I think it was a case of Asian on Asian familiarity. They're Asian women and I'm an Asian woman, and they saw me as somebody who wasn't like an actual legit customer, even though they didn't give me any sort of discount, in which case they totally could have disrespected me just a little bit, like to the amount that was commensurate with the discount. But I was paying full price. I was tipping them like everybody else. And I was probably one of their more valuable customers because I came very, very regularly. I wonder if the nail technicians act according to how fancy they think the client is. Maybe it didn't have to do with race, or maybe there are some factors that play in with race to to sort of even out based on like a formula. Definitely it has not benefited me in public places to dress down. I would go there in my joggers, no makeup and hair not done, because I don't think that I should have to do that when I'm going to get my nails done. I have been to other places and been noticeably treated different when I haven't been dressed up. Yeah, I think that they were just elevating their level of professionalism for people they thought were more worth the effort. They didn't waste their bag of Twinings tea bags and hot water from a dispenser on me for over 2 years, but they offered it as soon as this other couple sat down. So my parents ran a convenience store for many years, and I can't remember if they sat up straighter or were more attentive to people if they looked like they had more money. They definitely had their favorites, but those were just based on, if those people were nice or decent, and maybe if they spent more money. I do think that people get treated better if they're done up or look like they have more money. I experienced this actually fairly recently when I was in Toronto doing a mini press tour for my Cross Canada comedy tour, juliekimcomedy.com. I am my own sponsor. Anyways, there was a day when I was doing a national TV show and I got hair and makeup done and I was wearing this gorgeous Versace dress and heels, and I looked amazing. It was a good day. And I remember going to the hotel lounge and all I was doing was walking like a normal person, actually like a baby deer, uncomfortable with these 3-inch heels. I was just trying to find my family. But there were these business people walking out and they moved way out of my way. Maybe they were like, "Oh no, a woman in heels, like we don't want to knock her over." But I say that jokingly. I actually felt like they really respected me. Like I looked really nice. I was really dressed up. Even there was like another woman and she smiled at me and she moved out of the way like, "Oh, I don't want to get in your way. You look beautiful. You're somebody important." And that even shocked me. And it really, because I don't even dress up that often. But it really, wow, I was really impacted by what I perceived as like super elevated treatment. And I knew that it was only because I was really dressed up or really looked nice that day. I think we're all conditioned to, see people and assume that they're rich or fancy or deserve more respect. I think and hope that's kind of going away because people now dress in joggers. Maybe I was too casual. Maybe I should have dressed up when I went. Maybe I should have been an old white couple. I don't know. I think it's dangerous for people to assume that someone's going to be a good tipper or a future client just based on how they look or dress or carry themselves. I also think people should have more caution nowadays when everybody's dressing down and you can't tell from looking at somebody. And even if you could, that's not very nice. I'm going to try not to do that for sure. I'm not saying I'm better or that I have it all figured out, but that day made me learn a lesson in terms of how I would like to treat people, and I'd like to never treat people like that on purpose or even subliminally. I hope I don't. I will not name the nail salon. I hope they're doing fine. I really do, because small business is hard. If you're out there listening, please know that I don't care what you look like or how rich you are or how well you're dressed or how much money you actually have, just as long as you buy a ticket to one of my shows coming up. JulieKimComedy.com. Thanks for listening to Bothered, my new little storytelling podcast about being bothered. If you want to read the blog version with pictures and juicy videos, go to the blog, www.juliekimcomedy.com/podcast. I'm on tour, Ottawa, Toronto, London, San Francisco, and much more. Check out the dates at juliekimcomedy.com. Shout out to Logitech for the sweet gear to make this all possible. Thanks, and tune in next week.
Living like this, I might lose it. Living like this, I might lose it.